So now we're going to have a word from Lady Augusta Gregory, who you may recall is from Galway, one of the the landed gentry, so to speak, from the aristocracy. And she was from a place called Kilnarton, and she was born, she was the last, she was fourth from last of 13 children. Her mother and father were very, very traditional Anglo-Irish family, very Protestant in the sense that her mother made all of her sisters go and visit the poor, but proselytize at the same time. So they obliged them to say Protestant prayers, and they talked about God a lot at home. Lady Gregory was, like I said, she was born 9th, and after her came 3 boys. And for some reason, Lady Gregory escaped the visiting the poor and praying with them bit, and she was quite ambivalent about the whole. She was definitely Protestant, but she wasn't really fond of the proselytizing part. And so she was quite unusual in that family, in that she had she'd escaped the worst, let's say the early part of the family where you were kind of like closely monitored. And she got away with being a little bit wild. It was said she wasn't terribly good looking, and her mother had decided that she was probably going to be a spinster and had, counted on her being home forever. And then she was spotted out by Lord William Gregory. He was, a good deal older than her. He was almost twice her age when they married, when she was 26 or 28, and he was about 63. So I'm going to take it from there in 1880, when she married William. So I was pleased when William asked me to marry him. I had rather, I don't know, reconcile myself to the idea of being the lonely spinster and sole care for my mother. William gave me 2 gifts. Well, 3, clearly, if you count our son Robert, who was born the next year. He brought me out of Ireland. We went to London regularly, all around the place, really. We visited so many places. He allowed me to expand my mind. I was always fond of literature and reading, but now I was rubbing shoulders with great writers in London circles. And he gave me a cool house, which the house itself is, it's beautiful, but the gardens, oh my God, those gardens. Yeah, I had 7 forests. Sadly, William died in 1892. We had 12 years of marriage. I grieved, did the usual, black weeds and so forth, and stayed home for a year. But then in 1893, 2 things happened. A man called William Butler Yeats published The Celtic Twilight. Douglas Hyde wrote The Love Songs of Connacht. And I travelled to Inisheer. I went alone, probably inadvisedly, and a storm blew up, and I was stuck there for 10 days. But the people were remarkable. I was warmly sheltered by generosity and friendliness, and the islanders were just such beautiful people. And I couldn't get enough of listening to their stories. Every evening, big fire was lit, and the stories kept coming, the songs. And I realized all of that, all of those stories, this was a rich thread of something that was always there. Not only that, but I had the same on my own doorstep at Cool, where I have friendly relations with all of the people on our estate. And I resolved there and then to start collecting the stories of Ireland, the real voice of the people. So it went very quickly, really. I developed a very strong, how would you say it? Let's say it was a photographic memory. I could hear a story just once. And a lot of other things went out of my brain. I couldn't do household bills any longer, but if I heard a story or a curse or a poem, I immediately remembered every single word. And I was faithful to the words that people spoke. And we called it, I learned it really, it was kind of like, I suppose these days they would call it Hiberno English. I called it Kiltartnese. And so I took down every story I possibly could, using the words and the rhythms of the local speech. And after that, I learned Irish so that I would be able to go around and write down the stories and the songs and the epics and the heroic tales as the people told them. Now, I never spoke Irish terribly well, but I could understand it and I could write it and I could read it. And then I think it was 19 or 18, what was it, 1896 or 7, I met Yeats, and he was suffering terribly on account of this woman, Maud, who he'd fallen head over heels in love with, something to do with astral partnerships. Don't ask me what. In any case, the poor man was heartsick. And we fell to talking, and we both agreed that it was time to put the stories down. Yeats said he didn't have the head for it, so I said, I'd do it. And that was the start of a remarkable, long, lifelong friendship. Yeats came every summer to Cool, and we worked together. And then one year, I think it was 1898, 97, we decided we would form an Irish theatre. So it would be something to be proud of, you know. Not the old like buffoonery and sentimentality that the Irish had, but we could get support of all the Irish people who were tired of being misrepresented, and carry out make work that would be outside all political questions that would divide us and bring us all together. Something that the Irish could be proud of, something that was only theirs, that belonged to them. And so the Irish Literary Theatre was born. And we opened in May 1899. If I had only known, how could I have known that of all the things that would happen, and even how I and Maud Gonne would be crossing paths in the future. So more anon, we shall tell you the story of how it evolved even further. Thank you for listening.